Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Awkwardly Big Dice podcast. This is a re-recording of our opening because there was a lot of trouble when we streamed. We had some technical difficulties when we were streaming to Twitch. May have been my fault, or was wholly my fault. So lesson learned. But we're re-recording an opening because it turns out when I look back at the recording, with the audio for big parts of it, but no video, and then there's parts where the audio just sounds really fast forwarded, so it doesn't sound great. So we're re-recording a bit of an opening. It doesn't mean the podcast will be shorter than usual. Maybe that'll be better. Who knows? But
Perhaps.
hopefully not. We do like our length. I like the whole hour and a quarter-ish length that we were going for. But this is going to be the opening for the podcast. We talked about a couple of things beforehand, but just kick off straight away. Check out our socials, Instagram and Twitter, Ugly Big Dice, Ugly Big Die, and go to our YouTube or you're on YouTube, I suppose, because this is not live. So you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, check out our shorts. They're also available on Instagram and our Reels. Maybe you like them both. That'd be really nice. And then go to our Twitch, which is just Awkwardly Big Dice on Twitch. We record generally every Thursday. That might be changing in future, but for the time being, that's what it is. Thursday at 8 UK time. And you can check out this podcast when it does go onto YouTube, and it does that every Friday. But I am your host, I am Dan, and this is my handsome co-host, Rob.
Oh,
And the topics that we did talk about, we talked about the release of the new Planescape book, which was, I've forgotten the title now, Adventures Across the Multiverse, or Adventures in the Multiverse. We talked about a bit about that. We basically give my initial insights and told that it's about Sigil, as we said. We're calling it Sigil, not Sigil. It sounds like giggle because that sounds stupid. It is Sigil
giggle.
in British English, so it's how we're gonna be saying it. Get used to it.
You having a giggle, mate?
You having a giggle, mate? I don't think so, somehow, love.
No, sigil,
It's not. It's
not
not.
sigil.
Yeah, it's not Sigil as in giggle. It's Sigil.
No,
So
it's definitely sigil.
it's Sigil, but it covers a lot about Sigil, Lady of Pain, the ins and outs, the shape of it a little bit, which still confuses me a little bit, and then also the Outlands and the various different portal towns that exist in the Outlands, including one called Ecstasy that I mentioned, which I believe connects to something like Elysium or one of those sort of places.
Maybe.
Um, then there's
It's basically
also
a big circle, isn't it, with lots of
yes,
like portals around like a clock face.
yeah, but the Outlands I think are supposed to be infinite, so
Yeah,
um, we yeah, I mentioned yeah, I've read through most of it or skimmed it, probably in certain, but more skimmed it. I've gone through a lot of it. I looked through the bestiary. You'll see in our, which will be our first topic, which will be monster of the week, because we did record our spell of the week, but we won't be redoing that.
no.
But you'll get
Shame
our
'cause it was great.
yeah,
It's such a great
it was
song.
fine, familiar. It's a great spell. All you wizards, as we learned, it is a wizard spell. All you wizards, please take it. Great utility and can be used
Also,
outside of combat.
everybody else get the feat spellcaster initiate and also take find familiar. There.
So we did do that. I said, we in our news segment we covered this the Planescape book. Talked about the bit about the mentions of the bestiary and how a lot of it seems to be like new versions of monsters or like there's new Githzerai and stuff like that in there. But there are some other charming things in there as well. I haven't read the adventure to be able to give any comments on that though.
Good.
We also discussed a little bit of news, which was sort of not a news. It was an article written by Polygon that talked about a new actual play podcast that is going to be put on the the streaming platform of Wizards of the Coast, in tandem or league with, or in conjunction with, I think it's Entertainment One. It's going to be this sort of heavily edited 45-minute length episode show. Actual play, just like your Critical Role, your Dimension 20s, your high rollers. Um, but our main thing for that was it's a very crowded space already, and the kings at the top of the mountain are still very much loved, and it'd be hard to push them off. And I don't think you're going to be able to reach an audience beyond those that already love D&D or actual play shows. We were kind of negative about it, I suppose. But we were
Well,
like, good luck. We were like, good luck.
I hope it works, whatever they do. I hope it doesn't turn into overproduced garbage.
Yes. Yeah, that was definitely a concern. Hopefully, no overproduced garbage.
And the point was made that if, because I think they said, what you said, that they were looking at reducing things like um, moving miniatures and
Hmm.
unnecessary rules bits. And I just made the point really that if you take all that out of D&D, it's just improv.
Yes, yes, yeah. Which then, yeah, changes the entire thing. Are you really playing? Are you really doing an actual play, D&D actual play?
Yeah,
And we
not really.
compared it to like Warhammer doing their Warhammer Plus as well.
Yeah,
Very
so
similar.
we'll see.
Mhm. We'll see. We'll see. We're willing to give it a shot. And then we moved on to, of course, spell of the week. We did Find Familiar. Most people know what that is. Level 1 spell. Conjuration. It's great. And then you'll get
Have a
our
pet.
have a pet. Yes, have a pet.
Telepathically link with it. It's great.
Yeah.
Love it to bits. So much fun.
And then we move on to our next segment, which will be following right now. So, on to my topic, which is, of course, Monster of the Week. And I've chosen something from the new Planescape book,
Mm.
because I thought it sounded and seemed very interesting. So I thought I'd go for that. And that, of course, is the very sexy and attractive, or actually the complete opposite, the Maelephant, or Maleficent, or Malephant. I
Maelephant.
think it's supposed to be a pun. So Malephant,
As all the best
Maleelephant.
monster names are.
Yes. This is essentially it's a Loxodon that's a demon. It's a elephant-faced demon.
That
Elephant
looks
head
really cool,
demon.
to be fair.
It is pretty cool. I thought it was interesting. I like quite a lot of the art from the new book. And I saw
Mm.
that. Though I kind of wish it was more of a close-in, better picture and not a tiefling right at the front. But
Gives a
yeah,
good perspective on its size, though.
it does. It does. It just doesn't allow you to get like a close look at some of the details.
Yeah.
But these are large, lawful, typically lawful evil fiends who are said to be they said respected as guardians by villains across the multiverse. They're usually used to guard locations, items on behalf of the entities of the lower planes. It unsurprising or unsurprising, depending on your perspective, I suppose, actually wears half plate, wears plate armor, it wears armor,
Yeah.
which is cool. So it's a very big Loxodon. It's 10 feral. Good lot of hit points, and it's got a great speed. It's got 40-foot movement speed, which for your
Nice.
average player means if it wants to, it's coming after you very quickly,
It's true, yeah.
very quickly. Its main abilities are strength and con. Though it also has pretty decent wisdom, and everything else is very middling. It's barely above a 10. But it's a strength essentially, so you know it's going to be hitting you likely
Yeah.
a lot with its barbed trunk, which is its main attack. Or it's got two. I guess you could call it two main attacks. It does
Yeah.
technically make two attacks with a glaive, so. But it has magic resistance, as a lot of fiends do, and a lot of entities from the outer planes do. But its two main attacks, as I said, it does a glaive. It carries a glaive, does the typical glaive thing. No extra damage. It is what it does is technically a glaive. A normal glaive that you would handle is only D10. It does 2d10, so it is extra
Yeah.
damage. But it's for a glaive its size, it does the damage you would expect.
Yeah, it's not got additional damage like it does with its trunk then.
No, yes. So then its trunk. It does because it's a barbed trunk to remember. It's not just its trunk; it's a barbed trunk. So its barbed trunk does piercing damage, 2d8 plus 4, and it also on top of that does poison damage, which also means, unsurprisingly, this thing has poison immunity. One of the I went looking for a creature in the notebook that didn't have it, and there was one. I can't remember which one it was that I was going to use, but it does have immunity to poison,
It's got to be done.
and so it has been done, as is tradition.
As is now tradition. I do
Um,
like the look of this creature. I'm going to say the barb. What does the barb trunk do? Is its extra thing?
so if the target is a medium or smaller creature, it has the basically it can be grappled to DC 14, I think. But
So,
if it basically it can be grappled if it hits you with its trunk.
and
Until the
he's also
grapple.
restrained.
Hmm?
And he's also restrained, or is that always with grapple?
No, no. Yeah, it can be it's restrained class. No, grapples different grapples is its own condition. So it's
Yeah,
grappled, which
thought
means it
so.
can't be moved. So it can't move. Restrained is like the next level of grapple. So
Yeah.
essentially, it's the one that gives you all the was it advantage to be hit and
Oh, that
disadvantage.
yeah, yeah. Of course, of course.
Uh,
Yeah. So that's pretty nasty. And although I can see that while it's grappling a creature, it can't attack other creatures with its barbed trunk. It can
mhm.
still attack that creature that it's grappling.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But the one the reason that I actually chose it is the actual mind poison recharge, which recharges on a 5 or 6 that I chose.
Yeah.
Is it's something I hadn't really seen before, or at least I don't remember seeing. And I thought it was quite interesting. But I'll give it a read for both yourself and our audience. So the Maelephant expels poisonous gas from its trunk in a 60-foot cone, like a poison attack from a dragon almost.
Good range.
Each creature in that area must make a DC 16 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, a creature takes 39 or 6d12 poison damage and has the poison condition. While poisoned in this way, the creature loses all weapon and skill proficiencies and it can't cast spells. It can't understand the language and it has disadvantage on intelligence saving throws. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage only and is immune to the Maleficent Mind Poison for 24 hours. But it was the loses all weapon and skill proficiencies, can't cast spells, doesn't understand languages, and then has disadvantage on intelligence saving throws that I found
That's mad.
I,
That's interesting.
for a beast. And it's only a challenge rating 10, right? So it's middling
Yep.
in the overall scope of things. I think one of the things I was going to choose was like a 26 or something. It was really up there. And this 10 I thought was more middling, more likely to be seen. But that mind poison, you forget how to use weapons. Basically, it's like a forgetful gas,
Mind rot.
like a mind rot. Yeah,
I like that a lot.
I do. It's really It's really interesting. And it's interesting that, and I think it's smart and it's the right thing that they've done. Is that they've given it disadvantage on intelligence saving throws, not on the con save that is the save for the thing, because that'd
Yeah.
be a bit mean. That's like saying you're going to be poisoned. It's going to be really, really hard to get out. It's like, come on now, be nice.
Yeah.
Uh, but basically, yeah, it's mind rot. He said that it breathes out this poison that rots your mind. I mean, that's pretty. If you're going to have something guarding your tomb, your treasure vault, and you're an evil asshole, then this guy's probably a good shout because he can then stop anybody who's coming at it or coming at the vault or whatever from attacking because they forget how to.
So there's quite an interesting combination as well. Its trunk has a 10-foot reach.
Yes.
If you grapple and restrain someone that is a melee character that only has a 5-foot weapon reach, as most weapons do, you're holding that thing. You're
Hmm.
doing the polearm slash sentinel feat bullshit that a lot of players are known to pull, and you're holding somebody at bay while you can hit them with your glaive and trunk, and they can't return attacks.
Yeah. Damn.
That's and then you can just put mind rotting snot on everyone
You can.
from your trunk.
Like that was that one attack that I just really liked. I thought it was really clever, and I hadn't seen it before, though I don't remember every single monster, so I can't say
I
that I
mean,
have.
I've not seen anything like that before. It reads like a breath weapon, obviously,
Yes,
like a breath attack. I would say breath weapon.
it is a
That's
breath
more
weapon,
Warhammer
really, isn't it?
speak.
But,
Yeah, it's just more of a Warhammer term, is that I think breath weapon, but it's like a breath attack, yeah.
well,
With the
what do
cone,
the Dragon Ball call it? And
I don't know. To be fair, maybe it is breath weapon. That's just my years as a Warhammer player going. Oh,
yeah,
I've used a term that's from something else. Um, but then it's. I like the idea of this as well because it's challenge rating 10,
mm,
but those are nasty effects.
they are.
So if you were trying to go into somebody's lair of some sort of evil character, you could throw 2 of these at your players,
Be
and if
screwed.
one breath doesn't hit, the second one probably will. That'd be a very interesting fight.
I wonder. It feels like it's a challenge rating 10.
Yeah,
Like that feels appropriate if you're going to be using it and you're trying to you're actually trying to use challenge rating
yeah,
because often I look at challenge rating as a baseline and I want every fight to be a challenge rating deadly. I think is the top thing in challenge rating when you're measuring it.
yeah. Because challenge rating doesn't usually work very well,
No, so I want
but
all
this
my fights to
feels
be
right.
deadly. So, and I think that thing is probably quite accurate. Like there'll be things to be able to fight it, and a smart party will be able to fight it. They'll just stay
Yeah,
away from it. They'll spread out. They'll try and limit it. You'll try and do what it's trying to do to you. You use slow, hold
yeah.
monster, things like that to try and stop it from doing anything,
Make it
which is
blind. That'd work
make it
well.
blind. Um, I mean, you could also just polymorph it. I mean, you could do that too. But remember, it does have magic resistance, so all these things that you're trying to do to it are done with the
Very
advantage
true.
for it, making those saves. Um, but if you're a smart party, you've got a couple of spellcasters, you should be right. I think our current party that we play with on Friday could manage it.
Yes.
Maybe not with the 3 of you. I think it'd be maybe a bit of a struggle with the 3 of you, especially where you've got two. Well, our rogue doesn't have to technically be a melee character. Can be a
No.
ranged character as well. Probably better in this fight would be to be ranged.
And the
Um,
monk has the Eldritch Claw tattoo, so if it got grappled, it could not
mhm.
worry about the range thing that I just
Yeah,
mentioned.
and I think the monk makes so many attacks that it's should be fine anyway. And there's various the monk is going to be the one that goes in there and tries to stun it to take away its abilities using stun strike.
Very true. And also an interesting rules interaction that I'm just looking at now. I'm
Hmm.
thinking about monks. Is that if you get hit by its mind poison,
Hmm.
you lose proficiency with all weapon skill proficiencies.
Weapon and skill proficiency. Yeah.
Would you include unarmed strikes with that? Or would that, because the skill is things like deception, stealth, that sort of investigation, and
Hmm.
because I know that the reason I'm saying this is because monks can't smite if you multi-class as a paladin with their unarmed attacks,
Because it
and we have the thing.
specifies melee weapon
Yeah, yeah.
attack. because you can't even do it
Yeah.
with arrows and stuff. So that's why the melee
No.
weapon attack.
And there's the stunning strike thingy you need to do with your quarterstaff rather than your fists, although a lot of people just ignore that.
It's curious because I would like if I was to do it without looking it up, I would probably go yes. It makes sense that you can still fling your arms around.
Yeah,
Though of course, would you if you're losing all these proficiencies in the sort of theme of the ability, you'd lose your martial arts its abilities, wouldn't you
yeah.
really?
You'd
But I
not
would
know
be
where to strike as easily or something
yeah,
like that.
but I'd be curious looking at the way that it phrases unarmed strikes in the player's handbook, because technically every creature is proficient with unarmed strikes.
Yeah,
So, but I don't know if it phrases that. If it phrases it that way, using the word proficiency, I would probably say yes, it's a proficiency, and you're losing them all.
yeah.
That's that you're losing them all. But it doesn't. But if it doesn't, I would say then
I would probably rule it as a DM that it would you just stop
all
applying
proficiency.
proficiency to anything
Yeah.
to anything.
'Cause that's what it's trying to do. It's
Personally.
trying to cover all points by saying everything that's. If you're looking at your character, you've got the box, it's got your proficiencies
Yeah,
in. Anything in there you can't use right now, or add your
yeah.
proficiency to. That's what it's kind of saying. Though it doesn't say anything about tools or instruments and stuff, but
Yeah, if you, I
or
suppose if you,
armors or anything like that. Like you can still be still proficient at wearing your armor.
well, yeah,
Um,
yeah, you don't add a bonus for that though, I guess, so it doesn't quite
yes.
count in the same way. But it doesn't matter because the stuff that you would lose for not being proficient with armor, you're also losing anyway because you're not able to cast spells if you're wearing armor that you're not proficient with, for example,
Hmm.
and that also does that. So yeah, I think it's interesting because I think there are a couple with our current party. There are a couple of things that would work against it, but there are also a couple of things that would work against us.
Hmm.
Uh, so obviously, Fitz is an undead warlock. So when he uses Form of Dread, he can frighten things. This thing's immune to frighten. However, we could get around its grapple by Fitz pushing it back.
Hmm.
So
Do
like,
you also, as being a reborn, have uh, essentially resistance to poison as well?
yes, yeah, yeah, it does. It does have resistance to poison. Um, although, well, I mean, no, saying I'd stay out of 60-foot range is a bit rich, I think, to be honest, because you'd probably, if you were going to use one of these, you'd probably create the battlefield in a way that it's quite difficult for there to be many safe areas from that cone anyway. So I think you'd
Yeah,
still probably get hit by the cone. Um, yeah, it's definitely an interesting creature. I really like it. Does it have much flavor other than saying it's a guardian used by evil
it may
people?
do in the book. I don't remember. I did read it, um, but at
Yeah.
least beneath the stat block and where we're looking on the monsters section.
Do you know what I really like is that it's I've not looked at many new monsters recently because I've got a lot of the older books.
Hmm.
Like, as well, I say older, I mean fifth edition older, like Monster Manual, Volos, um, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, not the multiverse. So I don't know if I've seen many things that say typically lawful evil. I've just seen things that say lawful evil.
I've seen typical. I've seen
Have you?
usually we get a lot of things that are unaligned.
Yeah, I've seen that plenty of times.
But I'm sure I've seen things that are typically this. Typically, this works but for everything. Should be applied on everything. It
Yeah,
might be, and we're just being ignorant. But I'm definitely
differently.
sure I've seen it before.
Fair.
I think so, unless I'm talking at my house. But
I just don't recall seeing it, but I liked it. And to be fair, that's kind of how I would have ruled any alignment anyway. Yeah, these things typically are this, but there's always an exception.
yeah, Zariel.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think even the new book talks about Celestials not, the Celestials that could be evil and then vice versa. I'm sure it mentions that.
Do you know what
Um,
would be interesting? Although we would completely forget that the rules of this thing, but more as a law thing.
hmm,
Um, if you were to mix Tiefling and Loxodon, Because a tiefling's just a half devil, right?
Yeah, kind of depending on
Half
what your lore.
half devil, half Loxodon. A tiefling variant Loxodon.
Mm.
It's not that far away from this, right?
Yeah, yeah, not far. Oh, yeah. Was always that thing in D&D. It's like, is there's nature versus nurture kind of argument
Yeah. Yeah,
of
yeah,
like,
yeah.
does this because you've got a devil's blood make you evil?
No, I'm not talking about its alignment. I'm more just talking about like how you could have one as a player character rather
Oh,
than
okay.
a monster.
Yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
thinking
you
of
could. Yeah, sure. Tasha's allows for it.
yeah,
So yeah, you can do anything you want
like
really. Uh,
that's true.
I mean, again, tiefling depends on the law. Like some people were born human and then were exposed to the energies of the hells and became red with horns,
That will do that.
which I think is a big thing in our next topic, which is going to be Baldur's Gate. Because I'm sure a
That's
lot of
what
the
I was
tieflings in
thinking.
that they're all from El Turel, right? And El Turel was absorbed into the hells before it came back again, I think. And that turned a load of them into tieflings. That's how come like Damon and all that. Or if it turned them
Is
into
that how that
tieflings,
happened?
I think so. I'm sure that's the whole law thing. It's either it turned them all into tieflings, or the city was there that long that those that were born there were born
Yeah, fair. That makes sense.
tiefling.
I'm rubbish on actual D&D law when
I
it comes to that
mm,
sort of stuff, so I don't know anything about that
I
really.
learned a little bit by a little reading the wiki, occasionally going to the books, and playing Baldur's Gate now has allowed me
I
to
learned
learn.
so much playing Baldur's Gate because that's the thing. Like I've played. If you look at the campaigns I've played, I've done my own homebrew. I've
Mm,
played in a bunch of friends' homebrew. Um, I have played your homebrew, and then I've DM'd Curse of Strahd, which has quite well contained
yes.
lore. Because it's a domain of dread, so it's very much its own thing.
Hmm.
And the book tells its lore really well in most cases, but I didn't learn much about Faerun and the history of Faerun. So yeah, playing Baldur's Gate 3 was great for learning about uh, characters and
Hmm.
all sorts of stuff like that. Seeing Volo and the other characters that I can't remember the names of.
It's interesting because a lot of the lore seems so overwhelming because it's so old and so
Yes.
long and just too much, and because it loves this big loose pantheon that it's got of like so many gods, um, and the gods are so like involved in everything that like it's the gods aren't supposed to get involved is brought up in the game several times. The IO would be really upset if people got involved. Like we're playing an entire game where the gods got involved again, although half gods if you were. You know what I mean? I think that's how if you watch well, say now we're going to talk spoilers
Yeah,
about
we
Baldur's
are.
Gate. This segment is Dan finally finished Baldur's Gate. We're going to talk about it.
And then eventually me and Dan will do a playthrough together,
Yes.
which I don't know, we could stream, I guess. That would be an interesting thing.
See,
Probably what?
but we won't. um, I need a break from it to be honest for a little while.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
We
The
were on
cyberpunk
the
first.
character creating last night, and after you bounced, I created Archie just to see what he would look like, and I thought, oh, I'm curious about bards in general,
Yeah.
and I had fun using vicious mockery because he literally does start mocking people. Like I'm sure something he said was like, "Your mother had sex with a mule" or something like that.
Oh, what did I put on the back of that sign in Minecraft when you put up a sign to the Morning Lord?
Oh, I don't remember what you wrote. It was
Something
something.
about and his mother lay with swine.
Yeah, it's like that sort of thing. And I've got the voice I chose for Archie works pretty well. It's not quite. It's Archie's a little kind of Asterion, and he's in the vibes when I played him in D&D.
Yeah.
So to make him in Baldur's Gate, they didn't quite have a close enough voice. But either way, I went on and I played it, and I did the basically the opening. Met the sort of so I got Lae'zel,
Yeah.
and I went to go and do the bit where you basically go and get withers. And I was like, I'm coming off now. I know it's coming up. I'm just gonna come off. And today I was like, I don't want to go back on it.
I did the exact same thing when I'd started my Astarion playthrough.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna go get withers because I don't want to be a rogue.
Mm.
I want to be maybe like a monk or I don't know what I want to be, but I don't want to be a rogue. And I got into one of the entrances to that dungeon, which is the one where you just find a locked door. I think that leads into that dungeon. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, it does,
Um,
yeah. You different ways
and
to
I
get in
went,
it. There's you can collapse that you can make the thing collapse to fall through the floor.
yeah, yeah,
Which is the way I did it on my paladin when I started the wizard. Uh, or you can go and find technically the hatch that you can come out of. You can find the
yes.
hatch, or you can talk your way in.
And I was halfway through, like going towards that, and I stumbled into a fight with those guys, and I was like, can't be bothered. So I just turned it off. I might go back to it now though, because now I've played through a bunch of other stuff.
Hmm.
I've played Cyberpunk DLC. I've played a load of Minecraft.
Hmm.
So I might be ready.
Hmm.
But I'll wait for you.
It's a weird one because you play over 100 hours to finish that game.
Yeah,
It's a long time. It's a lot of hours.
yeah,
It's a lot of time that when you're done it, you're like, all right, I've done it. I'm done. But you kind of get the urge, like, oh, but I kind of want to see what this is like. But you don't really need to play a lot to then get the vibe of what the entire thing is going to be like.
yeah. It's also not. It's not 100 hours either though, because like think about how many times you had to restart a fight,
A
and the
couple
fights could
times,
take
yeah,
a
a few
long
times.
time.
Yeah, the fights take a
Like,
long time, especially if there's so many enemies in there, the game kind of gets stuck, and then you're like,
yeah,
oh,
I remember like there was a few fights that I think sometimes there's like if you're not sneaking, you can like in D&D, you can start a fight badly. You don't know that you're about to get ambushed because you've not passed your perception checks. You're not sneaking, and you're like, oh shit, there's a warp spider, and this is going to go badly for me right now. So
oh
yeah,
yeah,
you game over on that, and then but that it unless you save scum and like literally go, now I know that fight's there, I'm just going to reload and I'm going to approach that with foresight, which is kind of cheating, let's be honest. Um,
I did it a lot though.
I still did that a lot as well. It's difficult not to because you get into a situation and you're like, I don't think I can win this with the start that I have had. So I'm going to reload, but I'll still style it out for a few turns and just see what it feels like and see if I get as knackered as I think I'm gonna. Um, so I reckon I probably could have added maybe 10, 20 hours onto my save just for that.
Yeah, I'm curious to if whether or not save scumming does actually affect your
Well, yeah, because you're
total
loading up
playtime
a save that's like
earlier, but it's
a previous one.
earlier in your time played, so I don't know how the clock count.
Yeah, so it
If
won't
it's like
count
going
it.
backwards in time or not. You don't think it doesn't do it? Fair enough. That's fair enough.
Nah,
Yeah,
God, no, it doesn't.
then saves come in is probably like 50 hours of my of my playtime. I did it a lot, and it's because like I hate it's a big part of the game. And I started noticing it with Archie. Though Archie has a little bit of luck than my paladin does. Again, he's got more charisma than anyway. Um, but I get like really high rolls when I don't need them, really
Yeah,
low rolls when I need a high roll, and I'm like, it does that so consistently. I'm like, that can't be. That can't be. It is. It's RNGs, and it is technically there is what they call it karma dice or something. If you have
I
that,
turn that off because apparently it makes your rolls worse.
maybe I should do that because
Yeah,
I
I
can.
read. I don't know how true it is. I saw an Instagram video where
Hmm,
someone was like, it evens your dice rolls out a bit, um, but generally as a percentage it'll make you roll lower.
okay.
And I was like, well, whatever. Let's just have completely random dice anyway, like we do in the game.
Yeah, that's kind
And
of the point. I didn't really understand what it was, so I just left it on. So it's on. But yeah, with with my paladin, there were just some points where I was just like, that doesn't make any sense that I failed,
yeah,
and I was just like, I've just gone and got like a three, a two, and then a one, and I'm like, I had one, and I knew it was a glitch because I kept doing it over and over. It got stuck, and it kept rolling a two. And it would just roll a two, a two, a two, a two, and I used all my inspiration to do it. And it was just two, 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 two. It was like, oh, it's got stuck. So I reloaded it and it fixed it. But it was literally a bug. It was stuck. I was
You
like,
got Joe's dice.
I did maybe. The dice gods are like, hey, stop save scumming. But when I when I started playing with Archie, I haven't save scum at all, and I'm just going with whatever the rolls are.
Yeah,
Like even like, because there were times where I was playing the paladin where I didn't give a shit, so I would just go with whatever the outcome was. But I did it. I still did a lot of like reloading quick saves, um, especially because I was like, I kind of want. It's weird because when you play up a lot of RPGs like the ones that I like, the
yeah,
Bioware ones, you're in control of a lot of things. A lot of things. The dice takes control out of your hands,
yeah. It does.
which is a weird thing for a video game in a weird way. Where if you watch TV, you're passive. You have no control of the story.
Yeah,
A video game gives you that control, but the dice takes it away a little bit. So it's
yeah.
like this weird.
I, I think it's definitely you've very much hit on something that I felt with the game because we were just talking about this earlier, like
Mm,
when we were discussing that trimming down D&D so much that you just turn it into improv.
yes.
Obviously, the video game you could argue is the other direction. The role you don't have full freedom to role play. Um, so that I think that's the control that you've automatically lost. So when the rest of your control is given up to the dice, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I understand that the dice will roll for combat, and I don't really ever feel that my control is taken away that in that way. But I think, yeah, for the decisions and the weird stuff like that, and your arcane checks, your perception checks, that
Mm,
sort of stuff, and your charisma based checks, it does feel a little odd sometimes when you fail something that you would obviously not fail, or
mm,
because I think, yeah, we are used to RPGs like your Bethesda type
yes.
games where it's like you can see. I mean, no, Fallout 4 did it on a chance-based one, but it didn't. Like that was the first one that did it that way. I think before that, you could see that the chat option was there, but you needed a set like whichever your charisma value
Mm.
was in that game,
Yeah. Most of it's
barter
similar.
or whatever.
Yeah. Well, like my favorite series of all time, Mass Effect. You unlock skills or you charm or intimidation, paragon or um renegade, and
Yeah,
that's what like influences your those abilities. And there are other games that do it in more detail
yeah,
of those abilities, and I kind of feel like I don't know why in a video game that works a little better than maybe dice does. Um,
yeah. I kind of think so.
I wonder. I'd just be curious if Baldur's Gate had a version if you could switch off the dice and you'd have it based on simply on your ability. But then I don't know. Yeah, maybe it they've put so much effort into that because it influences the game so hugely, so largely
Yeah.
that I they wouldn't want to ever take it out.
No, and it's obviously the D20 is so iconic with D&D that I think that it needs to be there. I just think when you almost remove the D&D role play of it and just think of it as a video game, it does feel a bit weird it being there.
Mm,
I remember years ago, like literally more than 2 decades ago, when I played the first Baldur's Gate.
mm,
Now, I went on to Baldur's Gate 1 after playing, I think, Diablo 2.
okay,
I know Baldur's Gate wasn't brand new when I played it.
okay.
I was just lent it by a friend in high school, and I'd never played a TTRPG in my life. I was probably about 14. I only understood video games in the way that you run up to things and you press buttons to attack them. That's it. Like mechanics of a video game were just simple like that. So when Baldur's Gate had its little combat track window, and I was like, I could see the dice rolls in it. I found that so weird and so confusing. Um, and it is a weird one when take you take the kind of freedom of the improvisation role play out of it because it's a video game that you
Mm,
you still you have set choices, but those choices have degrees of success as well. So it's a bit,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
bit weird.
it. I don't mind. I was fine with it in combat, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like even though Shadowheart rolls terribly traditionally for me, um, especially early game, she just seemed to roll terribly. Whereas later on, she was fine. Uh,
yeah,
but to
massively.
be
I
fair,
found early game
later
hard.
on, I was mostly using her as a healing machine, so she was healing a lot rather than doing damage. And all the damage she was doing was like Flame Strike, Spirit Guardians, and then it was much more about, well, they have to beat her DC. Her save DCs is gone up over the game,
Mm,
so it costs something like, you're gonna see Sacred Flame being saved against early on in the game. But like when you throw a firebolt at somebody and it misses, you're like, firebolt at somebody and it misses, and you're like,
yeah,
hit him. It's like sometimes you want to go up there and whack him with the mace, and still she misses. Like, shut up! All those years of training thrown to waste.
I think it's a weird one as well because I remember I turned Will into a fighter,
Mm,
a dex based fighter. Because again, I've said in a previous episode of the podcast that I really liked all the different arrows, and I was like, well, 3 attacks and action surge means I can use 6 arrows a go. Why not? That's amazing. And it was. I obliterated things with that. Um, but when you kind of looked at the stats, he had sharpshooter, but he was still like when I looked at it, because he had so many different things that gave him plus this to hit and plus that to hit and plus a +3 bow and all this stuff. He had like +17 to hit still, so he was just never missing.
mm-hmm. Until you do, and you're like, how in all the hells is he missing? Like I had a good by the end of it. I had a really good um attack bonus. Oh, you just fast forwarded, then that was really weird.
Yeah, I went a little bit weird for a moment, but I'm
Uh,
back.
yeah, but, the yeah, so I had a really good attack bonus by the end of it, and the be like something I'd go up and try and hit it, and with a good old divine smite, and he'd miss, and you're like, huh? And you look at the armor class, and you're still going, and you go, oh, this guy must be like a over 20 armor class, and I need to take Great Weapon Master off because that must be why I'm missing. Because that -5, and you look at it, it's like a 17, and you're like, what? Oh, okay. Well, I guess there's still a chance I can miss, but it's pretty low.
Yeah, it's like you must be rolling consistently twos and threes.
I must have rolled like a natty one or something. But
Yeah,
but yeah, by the end of it though, like I was looking at like I can hit this guy. My minimum damage is like 20 something with my sword. That guy's got like 19 hit points left. I'm not using a smite. I'm just gonna slash this guy. And it's such like metagamey thing that you would never do in actual D&D. Because you just be
yeah.
like, oh, he sounds like he's injured. It might not be solo, but I'm still going to throw that smite in there.
That's the other thing as well, like the ability to inspect your enemies and just see all their resistances and weaknesses
I've seen
and
people make jokes about that. Various different YouTubers doing skits about things like that.
yeah, I think I've seen a few. And it's yeah, it makes it very gamey for sure. Um,
It's a video
it's
game.
like you, it's it's like you're DMing and we're all sat here loading up the creatures on D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Oh no, it's
Oh,
immune to poison. I will attack it with
yeah.
poison.
You mean what my brother does? Yeah, yeah. That thing.
Yeah,
I hope he doesn't do that. I mean, like to be fair, I have looked up a creature before when we've been doing it, but I purposely only want to look up like the art. So what I do is I quickly go on D and Beyond and I just look to see if I can click the art. I don't want to.
yeah,
I'm like so like don't want to look at anything else. But look over here, corner of my eye, just trying to click the art.
yeah. I mean, I don't care if anybody does that when I'm DMing. To be honest, like I trust you to not take the piss, basically.
Yeah, I don't trust myself. That's why I don't like to
I
look.
think what I usually do with characters is because, like you, we're both DMs. We both
Mhm.
know a lot of just basic information, like You can tell me if most things that are immune to fire, you know that something's immune to fire when you're going to attack it. So if it's not a difficult encounter and you do use fire, and you're like, I think those imps are immune to fire, I'll just waste a turn and I'll firebolt them so that my character learns that.
Yeah, yeah.
That way, I know that I can freely then meta against them. I typically do stuff like that just because I like, right, my character has now learned that,
Yes.
and
So when
or
you,
like,
sorry, I noticed at the beginning of Baldur's Gate, the imps that you fight at the very beginning don't have fire resistance or immunity.
they didn't they? It was
And I
weird.
think it's because it's like the tutorial, and they want people to
Yeah.
use like probably Firebolt as if they're it's probably the only ones they've got. So it's like, yes, we're going to let you use Firebolt against this thing.
Oh God, can you imagine? Maybe that disappears if you play it on the hardest difficulty. I've not tried the hardest difficulty, to
No,
be
I
honest.
don't really have much interest to going any harder.
No.
But I enjoyed the game too, but we're like talking shit about it a little bit, or at least
Yeah,
if its effects on the output of the general D&D community.
it's easy to criticize, but I still think it's for me. It's still a 9.5 out of 10
Oh
in
yeah,
terms of,
yeah,
and I think it's the best D&D experience that we'll ever get out of a video game. I think that you would struggle to get it closer to the real thing than
I
that.
think so. I'd agree. I'd agree.
'Cause it,
There's things I would love to see improved, but it is not. As you're, yeah, it's not a gameplay mechanic. It's not the D&D of it. It's more kind of, and it sounds really harsh. It's kind of like the writing. It's
yeah,
the
yeah,
storytelling that I would have improved. Um, and or even that because I know that there's things they cut from the game. Like there was a load
yeah.
of Karlach stuff that they cut from the game.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, apparently you're going to be able to go to the upper city in Baldur's Gate,
Ah,
and they cut it from the game, and she was going to have her 'cause she didn't really have a companion quest.
no, you kind of just naturally get to,
It's like you're going to go kill Gortash, and you're going to kill him anyway because he's part of the main story.
yeah.
So, but she doesn't have her own side thing.
That's because
Uh,
she's the main character.
hmm?
That's because she's the main character.
Because she's the main character. She was the last character they introduced, is why. So they cut a load of stuff.
I did
Uh,
feel like it was a bit weird the way they were like, "Oh, you're in lower city,"
yeah.
and I was like, "Okay, so when do we go to higher city or whatever it's called?"
Yeah.
And you never go, and I'm like, "Why did you just? You shouldn't have just don't call it lower city. You just say, right, you're in Baldur's Gate. There's
Mm,
more of Baldur's Gate, but you can see this much for the game."
yeah. Yeah, I should have called Baldur's Gate. Yeah, apparently, according to like Reddit or something, it was because they cut the upper city out, which included any quests that were attached to it. So I do wonder what was in there that might have rounded out some things.
Maybe. I mean, God, there's already so much in the game. It's hard to imagine them cutting stuff because it's a huge game. Um,
It's weird because like I think back on it and I'm like, it's a massive game, and then I go, was it? Because you think about the main story, it really isn't. Like the main story is probably only realistically supposed to take place over a couple of days. Even though yes, obviously you got long rest, so it doesn't. But like
yeah,
it's supposed to be, you've been
it
taken
felt like a week.
on the Nautiloid. The Naut you help it go. You basically help it crash. But you get back. It crashes. You help save the grove, or you don't. You go into on the dock, or you go across the mountain pass. You get you get to the Shadowlands, I guess you want to call them that.
Yeah,
You fight the Ketherix, Thorm, and his lot, the Absolute people.
yeah,
The cult of the Absolute. You fight them there. You then hear, obviously the army's moved on to go towards Baldur's Gate, so you head towards Baldur's Gate to go and kill who you've now learned is the other two members of this sort of triad, or the chosen of the triad of the the dead three. Um, so you do that, and you kill them, fight the Nether Brain, and
I definitely agree. But also at the same time, if we did that for our first campaign in Nuri, we'd make it sound like a 5-minute job. Like
hmm,
We
Oh,
all
sorry.
we all show up.
In a city.
As a drawer.
Yeah.
Uh, we stop a fight. We
Yeah.
meet up. We get sent to deliver some letters, so we
Mm,
head north.
yeah.
We um, go. We visit a tower in not
Wait.
Pinevale.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not far from Pineville. Yeah.
So we carry on heading north. We find a giant fish stuck under a bridge. We eventually get
Not
though
before that.
to yeah, it was, yeah, and I'm remembering things in the wrong order, but we get to Osridge.
Mm.
We deal with some things there, but a couple of those were side objectives. So if we delivered the letter was delivered. We then carried on down to what was the other place called? Not Ashley, but the other one.
Still for it.
Stillfort. Went to Stillfort. Found a plot. Well, fully uncovered a plot by that point. Um, met Luca Lang. Went on towards Ashley. Stopped the efforts to resurrect or bring Malice into the mortal world.
Sure. Uh, I also think that sounded a lot longer than what I literally just said for Baldur's Gate.
Nah,
Uh,
I didn't.
it
That's it.
had a lot more stops along the road, by the way.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, but my point is like the main story isn't. It realistically isn't. It's all the stuff that you do along the way that is a distraction. Um,
Say that bit again because it went for me. I think my internet's going weird.
mine's fine at the moment. Yeah, so it's the things along the way that lengthened it out, if I'm honest.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
but if you were to just power through the main story, I reckon you could do it fairly quickly. You just wouldn't level very very high, I think.
I think especially once you know the story as well, you can do it. I think the game is really well laid out that it helps draw you into all the side
Yeah.
plots, and I think that's true for a lot of video games. Like if I know Elden Ring for example,
Hmm.
it's a massive game, but if you look at your playthrough 2 when
Yeah.
you do New Game Plus, you can just power through the bosses in their order, get all the bits that you need to get, and finish the game in a way shorter time than you finished it the first time. And I think
Hmm.
it's just one of those things. Like
Yeah.
actually,
Maybe.
well, if you want to take um, the quickest route, then yeah, wouldn't be as quick. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me it's not that, and I'm not complaining about the length of it in any way. I know we're talking about it, but I'm not complaining about it. I do feel like the climax it wasn't very climactic, if I'm honest. But I have seen other people complain a little bit about the ending. I know I'm not the only one. That's the only thing that would probably. And then there's certain things I wanted more interaction with your companions. Uh, Beyond that, yeah, that loses it. That would probably just lose half a point to make it a 9.5.
Yeah, but fantastic game
Yes, very good
all in
game,
all.
all in all. And we talked about the off podcast about the different the endings and stuff like that we've had, but probably not something we want to talk about on the podcast, just in case anybody's sticking around who still
Yeah,
wants to play the game. We talked more in a general, even what we described the story, it's still very general, and that's from our perspective because I don't know what it's like if you go a proper evil route. It might be a different thing.
yeah,
Um,
I'm definitely going to try that. I think I don't even know if I'll do that on my Astarion run. I might do that on a fully like evil character, but
hmm,
I don't know. We'll see.
yeah. But I think we'll call that a night.
Mm.
We'll call that the end of this episode 8 of the Oxley Big Dice, because it's really hard to determine. We had to break it in half the podcast how long it's been, but we've definitely been running at least an hour and a half by the time. Uh,
Yeah.
so we will call it a night. Thank you for everyone who is watching, or has watched.
Mm.
Please go and check out our socials. We're on Twitter and Instagram. So Oxley Big Die on Twitter, Oxley Big Dice on Instagram. Our main sort of channel is still always YouTube. So please go subscribe on YouTube, watch our shorts, give them a like, check out what we're doing on there, and we will make sure to get another episode to you next week as well. But
Aye, thank you for coming. Hope you enjoyed.
we'll call that an end and see you all next week. And I hope all your dice roll natural 20s.
Except you, Joe. Sorry, Joe.